What is it you want that you're struggling to get? The point of struggle means it's not coming to you so easily. Why is it not coming to you? And inevitably, the answer is because your subconscious program doesn't support that.
Welcome to the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacy Phillips. As a leading manifestation advisor with a process that's, radically different from the old New Age model, mine is rooted in psychology, neuroscience, and my energetic gifts. I created this podcast to help you expand your subconscious limiting beliefs about the potential of deserving the manifestations you're calling in. Therefore, you're tuning into this podcast series to show your subconscious that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, you've already started the process of manifesting it. I also want to make the disclaimer that this podcast intro and episode was recorded before the election. So I had been staying up at the retreat house, which I think I told you all last episode, which was honestly the best trip I've ever had. And this isn't a plug for the house or anything. I hadn't been there since August, early August. And so I just appreciated my time there so deeply. Every single morning, I went for a 2-mile walk along the river with my dogs and my mom and her dog that I made her adopt, who now she loves so much. And we would follow up by getting a green juice, which I'll share with you in a minute. And then I would come home and do a magnesium salt bath. I would sauna. I was reading a new book and just all around relaxing and being in nature. It was phenomenal. But as I was looking around and realizing I was really treating this experience like a retreat, I had a nice little curation list of things I've been loving lately, and I love to share those with you. Again, these are all things I've personally bought. These aren't plugs or anything like that. I just like to share when I have cool finds. So today I'm going to tell you about them. The sunspots on my face have really been showing up, and a little bit of aging, just wrinkling and stuff. I talk about this all the time. I'm really natural when I approach it. It definitely was getting to me a little bit, and I did go 2 years almost without wearing sunblock on my face because anything I wear dries me out tremendously, and I hate that feeling of being super dry. I already live in the desert. I'm already super dry as a person, so I just was steering clear of it and being lazy, and it's really started to show from being in the car. And so I saw the supermodel that I know and follow, that she wears this face mask, these UVA, UVB protected sun shields. So I look insane, but I totally got one. And I was like, in the time of COVID, I probably look a little less insane wearing a face shield, but it's my tiny little secret. I've kept it in my car. I have one for my car and Max's car. And so that is called Bluestone Sun Shields. And I have that linked below. It'll be in the show notes. And of course, when I say show notes, if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, it's really hard to access those. If you just go straight to our homepage, 2pmagnetic.com, you scroll on the homepage, you will see this episode. Click on this episode and all the notes will be in there. So on the homepage, this episode, Bruce Lipton, click on it and you will be able to find all of these links if you don't see them in your notes. So that's my best kept secret, that I've been using that lately, and I crack everybody up that rides in the car with me, but I don't care. I'm taking this anti-aging as seriously as possible. And that brings me to, I have finally landed on the tinted SPF that I dig, which was introduced to me by my dear friend and facialist and educator, Britta. You guys know her probably, Beauty by Britta, which I'll get into more in a minute. She introduced me to the Say one. It's a tinted SPF. It doesn't dry me out. It tints really evenly and beautifully. So if anybody's been looking for their perfect version, give this a try, test it out. I dig it. And then I had this deeper conversation with Britta, who's my expert, just asking her, what are the things I can do right now? Because she introduced me to a podcast episode. I was starting to ask her, I was like, do I do threads? Do I go the Botox route? Like, what do I do? Because I'm really starting to see these lines show up, these aging spots. I've always been a laser person, so I do laser, I do microcurrent, but I'm starting to age. And so I want to do it as gracefully and naturally as possible. And honestly, I'm very, very open to threads. But she shared this episode with me about how truly deeply toxic Botox and fillers are, which again, I support anybody doing anything. But when I heard it, I was like, nah, not good for my body right now. So I was like, what do I do? So she turned me onto this brand, Marie Veronique, and they have a tremendous award-winning natural retinol. They have a wonderful vitamin C serum that's loaded with stuff, but it acts as a gentle retinol. So amazing. I ran out and told everybody I knew about it. Everybody's been writing back and saying how much they love it. So that brand has totally blown me away. I've actually gone on to use multiple of their products, but this is the big one I want to highlight here. If anybody's been looking for a retinol or something more gentle, that vitamin C serum, you can use it night and day, and it's been pretty tremendous. On top of that, I joined Britta. She has an educational membership program called Sovereign Beauty, and she's the gua sha wizard. So she was like, try these products, gua sha. Often she, told me, and she was like, watch all the videos and learn how. So I've been doing the gua sha daily, and I do see a lot of benefits from it. So I'm seeing how long I want to go with all this before I do threads. And so I'm loving it so far. If anybody's looking to learn a ton more about how to do gua sha on themselves at home, Sovereign Beauty is her great program. But I feel pretty solid in the beauty department. Definitely have been noticing changes through all of that. And so this has been a kind of a spa last week. I wanted to share those with you. Also, something that I love, Max got me this gift. I think they share photographers together, older brothers, Max's brand, and then this new brand, Off Hours, home coats. So it's this amazing robe company that is so chic. They kind of look like liner coats. They're super trendy looking and beautiful, and they're 100% cotton and clean and just really aesthetically pleasing. So I got the lunar one. That's linked below, along with everything else I've been talking about. So that's the house coat I've been doing all of my spa stuff in. And then to round out this little spa experience, I found myself really craving the 1990s wellness water. So have you ever in the 2000s or the 90s walked into a spa? There's always water that is infused with cucumbers or lemons or fruit. And I really found myself craving it all week as I was doing this. So I had been making myself every day, because the water at the Forest Retreat House is fresh spring water. I would then infuse it with some slices of cucumber, some pomegranate seeds, and lemon. And then the juice I was drinking every single day that I'm still continuing to, and I know it's fall. I mean, in California, it's still summer weather, but I understand TCM, and I know it's time to transition into warmer foods, and I do eat mostly warm foods throughout the day, but my body was really craving green juice, which says a lot about healing, because I couldn't drink juice before. It was just too blood sugar spiking for me, even if it was all green. And it's not the case anymore because of the Beam protocol. So the green juice I've either gone to the health food store to get every day, or I've been making myself, is cucumber, celery, spinach, kale, lemon, ginger. So alkalizing, beautifying, and it really rounds out that amazing spa experience I've been having. A couple of other things I want to turn you on to. You might be privy of these, but I saw them in a friend's post, and then I went out and bought them, and they're called Dream Pops. I don't know if you've heard of them, but I was like, these are brilliant. So they're these well-designed, frozen, either fruit or healthy kind of lollipops. And the one that I've been loving, which is another huge testament to healing, is the chocolate lion's mane. They're very clean, and they have them at some Erewhons, or you can find them online. We have them linked. And it's extraordinary, phenomenal. It has the benefits of adaptogens. It's healthy. And I could not even look at chocolate before without it making me break out in a rash, have a crazy crash, and not be able to sleep at night because it was so caffeinated for my adrenals. So it just really shows again how much I've healed. So if you haven't heard of Dream Pops, you're welcome. Hands have been really chapped lately. And so at my sink, I've been keeping this little thing called Buddha Butter Tin. That's Booda. I'll have that linked. Picked it up at Erewhon. Love it. It smells phenomenal. You can check out the link, the formula, but it's been one of my favorite little hand things to have after doing the dishes or anytime I wash my hands, because it has been so dry here and the smoke has dried us out so much more. So hot little tip. The other snack that I found myself making up at the retreat house and craving, again, getting back to the warmer foods, was the Jade Pearl brand. They have these little ramen packets, kind of like growing up as I did, top ramen, but clean. They're so tasty, and it's a wakame miso that I've been eating. That's linked below. You can find them on Thrive Market. I think you can find them all over. I pick them up at Erewhon, but they are so easy and tasty. And I personally actually make it with bone broth that I'll have rather than the water. And I'll throw a handful more of kale or spinach in it. So it's just a tasty, really warming, clean treat, but very, very simple, because you have the packet of seasoning for the miso and you have the wonderful rice noodles. So if you haven't heard about that, you're also welcome. And a couple more things. These are more lifestyle. I sent this to the team, but I really like kind of wonky looking jewelry. And I say this is the biggest compliment. When I met Kelsey Potter, which is one of the jewelers I love the most, I told her, I was like, what I love about your jewelry are the shapes. They're not perfect. They look kind of wonky. And she was like, that's the word I use, wonky. And so I found, scrolling through Instagram, this accessible jewelry line called Sumero, I believe is how you pronounce it. And they make different things, but I really like their wizardy looking rings. And they're accessible because they're sterling silver with gold, 18 karat gold filling over them and beautiful gems. And so I picked up one of their stacking rings, and I just think they're so cute and trendy and interesting. So I was like, oh, I'll tell everybody here about them. This isn't as accessible. On here, I try to share things that are, relatively accessible, easy to get or make or do. But I do have to give a big shout out to a coat that I picked up this season that I love so much. And it is expensive, I'll be honest, but there's a reason, because a lot of love goes into making this coat. So Rudy Jude is a brand, if you've heard of it, a lot of people have. It's primarily a kids brand, but it also has adult clothing. And our friend in Maine is the founder of it, Julie. And many people don't know this, but Max is one of her business partners. And so he heads up the production and studio side over here, and she designs and does so much. But she really came up with this concept of using upcycled old quilts in Maine. So she handpicks them out. She sends them over to be sewn, and it's a beautiful cut, and it's all naturally dyed by plants. I personally got the indigo one. Every pattern's different. They're completely upcycled, recycled, old handmade quilts into this beautiful, beautiful chic cut. And so I'm obsessed. It's called the Rudy Jude Adult Quilted Coat. When she posted it for the first round, it sold out in 3 minutes, all of them. So it's definitely one of those items that one would invest in, but would keep forever. So I'm just putting it on people's radars. If you are into quilted coats or coats that look like jacket liners, like I am very much so the last 3 seasons, this is one I want to put on your radar for when she releases the next batch, because they are so chic and beautiful, but it is an investment piece. And then last but not least, if you don't follow us on Instagram, you must. It's just at To Be Magnetic. And we put out our first reel 2 weeks ago. And the reel was all about how to DI. And in it, we showed my eye mask that I use. And I think that was the biggest question we got all around. What eye mask is this? And it's kind of interesting because I can see who listens to the podcast or who doesn't, because I obviously talk about blue blocks on here a lot. But the go-to eye mask that I bought for my house in Topanga, I have one at the Forest House and I have one for traveling. That's how much I love it. I've bought 3 of them. It's the best. I used to use the Lunia eye mask, which is a fantastic silk one, also really good. But what I love about this particular eye mask that Blue Blocks makes is it's 100%. It blocks out all light. So when you do wear it at night, there's nothing. But what I love about it most is it has sort of these goggles. The mask isn't smashing your eyes like a lot of eye masks do. It actually leaves a lot of space so that you can open your eyes when you're wearing it, because it's kind of goggled and you are able to just be a lot more comfortable and free. So it's the mask that I use for sleeping, but also the eye mask that I use for DIs during the day or evenings if I'm in too light of a space. So for everybody that asks, what mask is that? It's the Blue Blocks light blocking eye mask. And that rounds out the curation of this month that I wanted to share. And we've also been sending out really beautiful accountability text messages to the community. As I explained in the past, Dr. Tara taught us how important it is to override an old neural pathway. There has to be a step of accountability. And we thought, oh, this is the greatest way that we can facilitate this for you. And so we have a totally free text service that we send you tips. We send you reminders of things of when to do the full moon. I send voice notes of, what's coming up for me and little teachings, and it's the first place that you will also receive deals. So if this is something that you're interested in being a part of, again, completely free, this is all in service to you. You can go ahead and text us at 1-213-423-5226. Again, that's 1-213-423-5226. And you'll just text hi or manifest, and then you'll automatically receive the link to opt in to receive test. You can opt out at any time. And I'm really sad to report it's unfortunately only for the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico right now. We are looking into more countries coming in 2021, but this was the best service we could find. So don't worry, at some point, everyone will be notified on social media and via email when we can do full international. So looking forward to having this more intimate way to connect with everybody. Let's get into today's guest. I'm so excited to announce today's guest. We've had some awesome heavy hitters on here, and this is just another fantastic one in the series. Last, we had Dr. Joe Dispenza. We've been having incredible conversations with Dr. Tara Swart. And then, of course, now someone I've been waiting desperately to have a conversation with is Bruce Lipton. He's a stem cell biologist, notable for his views on epigenetics and best-selling author of The Biology of Belief, Spontaneous Evolution, and The Honeymoon Effect. He's an internationally recognized leader in bridging science and spirit. So we really dive into Bruce's work today of understanding how we can be the masters of our own genetic activity, how changing our consciousness can shift the world in which we live, and why it's necessary for our brains to understand the world around us through programming, but also how we can shift the programming. And what I especially love about Bruce is a lot of what he teaches is in tandem with our work at TBM. He's yet another expansive expert who can really bridge reprogramming, epigenetics, and changing the way we react to our environment. Let's get into this conversation. Bruce, we are so excited to have you because if there's anybody I have studied or know who truly has had the capability of turning your perception to experience your environment in order for your inner environment to be positive, it's you. And it's actually the perfect segue to get into your incredible body of work. But before I do, the very first question we ask everybody is, what is your cultural background and your astrology sign?
Well, I was raised out east in New York, which is automatically a more liberal spot on the planet. Our family history came from Jewish people, and I did the necessary thing to get up through what is called Bar Mitzvah 13. And then I disconnected from all religion at that moment because as a child and as, growing up, I saw that, religious people offered all these wonderful words of, oh, beautiful, beautiful. And I go, but if you look at their lives, they really suck. They're the ones that create all the wars and stuff like that. And I realized that they talk about this wonderful spiritual stuff and their lives are nothing I would want to be involved with. And then I started to get into science, and I like the science because a scientific truth is true on this side of the planet as it is on the other side of the planet. That's a true thing. So I disregarded spirituality, said it's not relevant, got into biology, and then, of course, got programmed with the belief about genetic determinism, the belief that genes control our lives. Ended up in graduate school and then a professorship. And my background, of course, was the programming of like Darwinian theory and the whole story, the conventional story about genes and all that stuff, right? And the relevance about that was, while I was carrying out this research on stem cells back in 1967, I saw something that was profoundly different than everything I was teaching. I was teaching genes control life, and my cell studies showed, no, the genes didn't control the life. It was the environment that was controlling the genes. And it was like that was totally antagonistic to the entire field of science I was in. But then at some point started to recognize the principles of it and started to say, oh my God, what I'm teaching medical students is complete false understanding, but it's bigger than that, because of what I was teaching was the belief that most people carry right now, and that is, genes determine the character of a person's life. And that's called genetic determinism. Genes determine the character of your life. And I say, so what is the ultimate understanding of that belief right there? And the ultimate understanding is this, is that as far as we know, we didn't pick the genes we came with, and B, if I don't like the characteristics, I just can't change the genes. And C, we're told that genes turn on and off independent of us. So what is the result of teaching that? And the answer is, we're teaching that people are victims of their heredity. In other words, you got cancer running in your family. Well, I'm sorry, you got a cancer gene, and you have a chance of getting that cancer. Cardiovascular disease in your family. I'm sorry, you got a disease gene, and you're going to have cardiovascular disease. Whatever the story was always attributed to a genetic thing. And then you have to understand, so what are we teaching? Well, when it comes to genes, we have no control. Well, then I am powerless over my life. And once you are powerless, once you're a victim, then you're also programmed to seek a rescuer, one who's going to help you. And then, of course, rescuers are usually not free. You have to pay something for it. And hence the pharmaceutical company comes in and says, yep, you're victims of your genes, but we have the chemistry to control your life. Give us your money. That's the belief system. Then I'm working on these stem cells, start to recognize that the environment is influencing and controlling the genetic activity, and start to recognize a simple fact. I control the environment. And if I control the environment and I change the environment, then I change my genetic activity. I go, absolutely. And all of a sudden it says, oh my God, I'm not a victim of my genes. I am actually a master based on my environment. And more importantly, as I came to learn, my perception of the environment is what controls it. And since I can control my perception, I can control my environment, then I'm not a victim of my genes. I control my genes and my behavior and my health and all that. And all of a sudden it's like, my God, I'm the master of my biology. I'm not the victim I programmed everybody else to be. And that's when I had to realize that I had to stop teaching in the medical school, because I saw that what I was teaching was totally incorrect. It was conventional curriculum, but it was totally disempowering. It was telling people you have no control over your life. Your genes are doing this. Other people can help you, but you can't do it. And that just took away power. And it's like, it's just the opposite. We control every aspect of our biology and our health and our behavior. And the relevance about that is this conforms with quantum physics. And people go, oh, that's the weird science. And I go, well, let me just emphasize a simple fact. There is no science that has been tested and affirmed to be truer than quantum physics. Quantum physics is the most truthful of all science on planet Earth. The first principle of quantum physics is consciousness is creating your life experience. And I go, why is that relevant? Because we can change consciousness, and therefore we can control our life experiences. And then the biology, which I was discovering, which is now a science called epigenetics, was saying the exact same thing. I control my genes through my consciousness. Therefore, I am the master of my genetic activity and not a victim of my inheritance. And let me just tell everybody out there, because you wanted to bring up astrology, Libra with
Libra.
Leo rising.
I'm a Leo rising Aquarius sun. We are very compatible.
And if you look up into the sky in the evening, just after sunset, just as it begins to get dark, you look toward the eastern sky, you'll see a very bright star. It's not a star, that's Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
And just to the left of it, visually, like a couple of inches away, is Saturn. And on December 21st, the solstice, the two planets are going to be exactly one on top of the other.
Wow.
You won't see them. It's called a conjunction. Jupiter and Saturn are the biggest controlling factors of the character on planet Earth in a large degree. And I say, why is this important? Well, it's falling on the solstice, which is another special situation. And you put it all together, and what it says is this: radical upheaval on planet Earth by 21st of December.
Yes, my astrologer's been chatting about that too, as if we need more this year. But no, I'm grateful. I'm always grateful for that. But what I really liked about what you said, that I think is a perfect segue into a lot that I've learned from you. The existing structure that we're perceiving of our environment isn't working. However, the infrastructure that's determining is our subconscious, right? What we imprinted from 0 to 7. Am I correct on that?
Yeah. First, we have to go back and let's emphasize a fact about quantum physics, as I mentioned. Quantum physics is the most valid science on the planet. And quantum physics leads us with the belief that consciousness is creating our life experiences. And then we also find out that our consciousness during our development is programmed. And there's a very important reason why we have to be programmed. It's very simple. And the fact is this: the brain is a computer. It's not like a computer. It's a supercomputer beyond anything humans have created. But it's a computer. So therefore, I'm going to give a computer analogy because it fits perfectly into what we're talking about. And it goes like this: the brain of a child is a developing computer. In the fetus stage, in the last trimester of pregnancy, the brain is booting up. It's beginning to function. So let's give the analogy. I want a computer. I go to the store. I buy a brand new computer, bring it home, push the start button. It boots up. Screen's on. Now I say, do something, write something, make a spreadsheet, do a drawing, with your computer. I say, well, do something. And the first thing he says, I can't do anything. I say, why not? I said, the computer's booted up. And they say, yeah, but I don't have any programs. First, you need to put the programs into the system so that the user of that computer can engage with the computer. If there are no programs in it, you can't do any damn thing with it. In the human brain, it's a computer. It boots up in the last trimester of pregnancy. But just like any other computer, if there are no programs available, we cannot use that computer. So the first part of a child's life, from the last trimester of pregnancy through age 7, the design of the nervous system is to download programs. And it downloads these programs by observing other people. So our brain is like a video recorder. It's recording behavior from mother and the father and the siblings and the community around us. I say, why are we recording all these behaviors? And the answer is very fundamentally important. There are rules to be a member of a family. There are rules to be a member of a community. And I say, if you don't have the rules, you can't fit. And I said, well, where are you going to get the rules from? I said, well, you could read a book, but as an infant, it's probably not likely going to impact you in any way. Well, how does an infant learn the rules? And I say, they just record the behaviors of those around them, first parents, then siblings, then community. By observing their behavior and recording it, they can push the play button and play back the behavior. So that's how you learn. You download the behavior. And now that I have it, I just have to push a button in consciousness and boom, I'll play the exact same behavior that I downloaded. So the first 7 years is you have to put programs in. You get the programs by being conscious enough, and it's actually subconscious, to record the behavior of those around you because that's your teacher. That's what teaches you how to be a member of the society. So you are recording for 7 years, and that's when the programs come in. And it's a function of the brain that is lower than consciousness. So the predominant activity of a brain of a child below 7 is not in the vibration level of consciousness. Now let's understand vibration for a second here. If I want to read your consciousness, your brain activity, I put wires on your head. It's called electroencephalograph, and it reads the brain, and the brain is an electrical organism. It's electrical and has vibrations and frequencies that are associated with it. Well, what we recognize as an adult, you have a whole range of frequencies. The lowest is delta, which is sleep. Then the next one up is called theta, which is imagination, characterized by imagination. So when a child is in theta, they mix the real world and the imaginary world. And that's when you can tell they're in theta, because they'll have a tea party and they'll pour nothing into the cup and drink the nothing and exclaim how wonderful the tea was. That's a total example of theta imagination. But by age 7, the brain really goes into predominantly a higher vibration called alpha. And alpha is expressed as calm consciousness, a child's calm consciousness. And then by 12, it ramps up to still a higher vibration, and this one is called beta. And that's a vibration of schoolroom, focus, conscious thinking consciousness. So the vibrations have this whole range. There's even a higher one called gamma, which is called peak performance. The function of the brain is characterized by its frequencies. As its frequencies develop over time. So an infant doesn't have the entire range, delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma. Infant doesn't have that. Infant starts off with delta. Why? Because it's sleeping most of the time in its early first year. But between then and age 7, the brain of the child is a little higher than delta. It's not sleeping. It's in theta. That's the imagination phase. That's where the child rides a broom and the mother says, give me the broom. And to the child, it's not even a broom in that theta imagination. It's a horse. So the mother asks for the broom and the child's like not even understanding because it's not a broom at that moment. And so I say theta. And then by age 7, I've downloaded these behaviors. So by age 7, I've got programs. And then the next higher frequency, alpha, starts. And that allows you, like on a keyboard, now to type on that keyboard, put data into the machine, engage the program, and then see the results on the screen. Well, that requires a conscious level, touching the keyboard. Before that, it's subconscious. So theta is subconscious programming, and at age 7, the brain ramps up to a little higher vibration, alpha. Well, that's engaging. So now the child is working with the programs. And then by 12, it even gets a higher ability to focus and alter the program. So I say, what's the point? The brain of a child is a computer. The operating system kicks in last trimester of pregnancy, then begins the download of programs. The download is done by just observing others in a state of hypnosis, theta, and then I get programs built into the system. And by age 7, I get to access the keyboard of my brain and type in things I like and then engage the programs, okay? So I go, so why is this relevant? And the first part is this: A child is not conscious until around age 7. B, before age 7, it's in a record mode and learning programs. And I say, from who? From those around the child, parents, siblings, and community. C, when the child gets consciousness, then the conscious brain is the creative brain. Why is that important? The creative mind. So I say, Lacy, tell me what you want out of your life. What's the vision you want? And that's a creative answer that will have to come forth from that. I say, then the creative answer of wishes and desires can only work once you have alpha. So all of a sudden I say, now you are controlling the system. And you can use the programs that you got. And as we learn, you can also rewrite those programs, because here's a simple point. Your wishes and desires are not necessarily the wishes and desires that your parents had or your community had. And therefore, whatever you downloaded may not even support your wishes and desires in that first 7 years. Okay, we're programming a child. Interesting fact. The Jesuits for 400 years have told their followers, give me a child until it is 7, I will show you the man. Now, people didn't understand what that really meant, but now I'm going to tell you in modern biology. The first 7 years, give me a child for the first 7 years. That's a programmable period. So a teacher, a priest, or whatever can put a program into a child's mind. But then it says, for the first 7 years, and then I'll show you the man. What it says is this, that after age 7, once the program is in, your life is a manifestation of the program. not your wishes and desires. It's whatever you got programmed with. And I say, why is it relevant? Because it doesn't match your wishes and desires. Your conscious brain's got wishes. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be in a great relationship. I want a job that pays well. I want all these wonderful things. I say, that's creative thinking. I say, you're going to get it? I say, well, it's based on the program in the first 7 years. Since up to 70% of the downloaded programs in that time period are disempowering or self-sabotaging or limiting beliefs. And I say, then your program that you got does not necessarily offer you any of your wishes and desires. And in fact, the larger number of the programs you got disempower you because they're self-sabotaging or limiting beliefs. What does this mean? Well, just as the Jesuit said, whatever program in before age 7, 95% of your life is coming from those programs. And this is the problem because we're not then running programs of our wishes and desires. Our life is a manifestation of the program we downloaded. This is how come children reflect the same characteristics of their parents because they got the downloaded behavior and they become their parents at that point. That's a struggle. It's a struggle because your life is not coming from the conscious mind, which is the wishes and desires creative mind. 95% of your life is coming from the subconscious programs, mainly derived from other people. Simple point. Are you living the life you want, or are you living the life you've been programmed to live? And the answer is the latter. And that's why we struggle through life, because we have different wishes and desires that we want out of our life, and our programs don't necessarily support them. Therefore, we go forward with, I wished for this, but look at what I ended up with. Mm-hmm. And I say, well, where's the problem? Well, subconscious means below consciousness. 95% of your behavior is being controlled by the subconscious. I go, yeah, what does that mean? I says, when these behaviors are playing, it's below consciousness. You don't even see it. It's automatic behavior. And so are you living the life you wish for, or are you living the life you've been programmed to live? The latter, of course, is it. And I give the same story, Lacy, 30 years now. I wish I had a different story just to, change it around. But here's
I'm the queen of using the same example for years.
So in my particular story, what do I tell people? I say, look, I'm sure somewhere during your development, you were close to a friend and you knew your friend and you knew their behavior very well. And in this particular case, you happen to know your friend's parent. And one day you see your friend has the exact same behavior as their parent. And this is the cool part because, of course, you want to tell your friend, you go, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. The moment you say that, Bill, the first thing out of Bill's mouth is, how can you compare me to my dad? I'm nothing like my dad. And people begin to laugh because they've had that experience. Most profound story, Lacy, I can tell you right now is that story. Where did Bill get that fundamental behavior? He downloaded it from his dad. When? Before age 7. Okay, I got that. But how come he doesn't recognize he has those behaviors? And the answer, and this is the whole point, the conscious mind is creative. Let's start with a vision first here. Imagine your body as a vehicle. It is. Imagine there's a steering wheel that steers it to wherever you want to go. When the conscious mind is driving the vehicle, that's the creative mind. That has the wishes and desires. When the conscious mind is driving the vehicle and the conscious mind has its hands on the wheel, it will drive the vehicle to wishes and desires. But then comes the biggest problem, and this is it. Of all the people listening, Lacy, I hope they get it, and here it comes. It goes like this. When we think, conscious mind changes its orientation. When we're not thinking, we're looking out our eyes like the windshield of the vehicle. Our conscious wishes have their hands on the wheel, and we're driving our vehicle to that visual destination we want to go to, conscious wishes. But I say, but what about if you start thinking? I go, what do you mean? Well, thinking redirects the conscious mind. It's just a simple fact. When you're thinking, where is your conscious mind focused? Inside your head. That's where the thoughts are. So, I'd say, okay, listen, Lacy, what are you doing on Thursday at 2:00? Now, if it's not written in front of you at this very second, I bet you in a couple seconds can come up and tell me exactly what you're doing on Thursday. I said, where the heck did you get the answer from? It's not written in front of you. He said, oh, no, I had to think about it. I said, oh, and how did you do that? I take my attention and I ask the question inside, what am I doing on Thursday? And my mind goes through and like agenda and sorts it out and goes up, here, this is what I'm doing. Then you say, this is what I'm doing on Thursday. Your consciousness had to look inside. In order to drive the vehicle, the consciousness is looking outside through like the window, looking in the direction we're going to go. Consciousness lets go of the wheel. Why? It's no longer looking out the window. Consciousness is now going inside because the answers are in thought. They're inside. I say, oh my God, then that means your vehicle's out of control because you let the hands go off the wheel. I go, subconscious is autopilot. So the moment I am thinking, the subconscious program steps in, grabs the wheel, and drives me now. I say, yeah, but the subconscious program's got all those negative beliefs. And I say, yep, and it's going to drive you to every one of them because the subconscious has got a program. It can't take you to a positive place if the programs are negative. So I go, well, how much of the time of our life are we thinking? Because that's the amount of time of our life that we're not being controlled by wishes and desires. When we're thinking, we're controlled by our programs. Answer, 95% of our life is coming from subconscious. And since most of the programs in the subconscious are disempowering and destabilizing and limiting beliefs that we downloaded, that means 95% of the life that you're living, you are not moving toward wishes and desires. You're actually automatically carrying out the programs you were downloaded with before age 7. Hence the Jesuits saying, after age 7, you are the program. Meaning, after age 7, whatever programs I put in, you're going to manifest them. And of course, since the vast majority are negative, then what do you think life is all about? Struggle. We struggle, and then we're playing these behaviors, but we don't see them. That's why doesn't Bill see the negative behavior that he's playing? And the answer is, he's no longer looking out the window with consciousness. His consciousness let go, went inside. So whatever behavior is being played when consciousness is thinking, that behavior is not seen or experienced.
So I'm quickly interrupting this episode to invite you, if you're ready to start your manifestation journey, or if anything you've heard in our manifestation episodes has piqued your interest to begin. We have a la carte workshops in everything from the basics bundle, which is what we recommend to everyone who starts. It's the formula that actually teaches you how to manifest, unblocked inner child, and unblocked shadow. We also have a la carte workshops on love and money. But the real gem is the Pathway membership because it encompasses every single workshop we have. It's a year-long membership with full access to the few a la carte offerings we have and exclusive workshops not available anywhere else, such as the daily practice, which is what everybody in the Pathway uses, hopefully at least 3 times a week to daily, in order to truly create the new neural pathways that one needs in order to manifest, and houses the library of our deep imaginings, which is our unique hypnosis process that allows you to get into your subconscious and overwrite those old neural pathways, creating the new ones. You can use our special code, EXPANDED, all caps, EXPANDED, to receive $20 off your first a la carte workshop purchase or $20 off your first month of the Pathway. Again, that's all caps, EXPANDED, EXPANDED. Okay, now back to the episode.
I give an example here. Lacy, let's say you and I are in a car. I'm driving the car, and we're having this wonderful conversation, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then at some point, I look out the window and realize, God, during that conversation, 5 minutes, I didn't pay attention to the road. I was so caught up in our conversation and our consciousness, I didn't pay attention to the road. And a lot of people realize at some point, it's like, oh, how did I get here so soon? It's like, well, you were thinking, and while you were thinking, the subconscious was driving the car. And so now I want to step back and go back. We were having a conversation, Lacy, you and I drove for 5 minutes. Now somebody says, Bruce, can you tell me what the conversation you had with Lacy, what was that about? And I go, yeah, we talked about this and this and this and this and this. And then I get asked, and what was happening on the road when you were having the conversation? I don't know. I don't remember. I didn't even see it. Your car was still safe. You didn't drive off the road. And I say, no, subconscious autopilot knows how to drive. It stepped in, took over driving. I wasn't looking out the window when I was thinking. Therefore, I did not see my own behavior. And if I'm playing a negative behavior, I'm the one who doesn't see it. But like everybody else watching Bill, I can see that Bill has this behavior. Bill can't see it. And then the point of this whole story, Lacy, is that we are all Bill, every one of us. We're doing this every day, 95% of the day. We are thinking, and our life is now being controlled by the programs we got before age 7. And if they are disempowering or sabotaging programs, we are playing them. And like Bill, we don't see them. The general public has great wishes and desires, but when they don't manifest, they perceive themselves to be victims because they say, I had a wish to be successful and it didn't work. It must be the outside. And if the outside is controlling me, then I'm a victim. Victim means I'm powerless. So simple point. How do we get to the day's world where my life is falling apart outside and I am feeling I'm a victim? I have no power over this. My life is out of control. Other people are messing with it. Total illusion, because you didn't realize that 95% of the day you were creating your life as quantum physics acknowledges, and you were creating it with programs subconscious below consciousness. Your consciousness wasn't even observing the behaviors. And since the vast majority of these are self-sabotaging or limiting beliefs, all we see is the result. We didn't see our participation. I say, so what is the general net result? I am a victim of the world. I have great wishes and desires, but achieving them are very difficult because I'm a victim. And I go, oh my God, no. You were creating this without any awareness that your conscious mind was busy and that the programs you played weren't even yours. They were downloaded from other people. They don't answer your desires and your wishes. And all you see is my life isn't working. You're left with only one conclusion. I am a victim of forces outside of me. And now we change this and say, no. As quantum physics acknowledges, consciousness is creating our life experiences, whether you're paying attention to that consciousness or whether it's running automatically from the subconscious. You are creating the good and you're creating the bad. If you have no ownership over it, then I'm a victim and bad stuff happens. It's like, oh, poor me, bad stuff is happening. And then I turn around and go, no, that you are creating this behavior. And if you change that behavior, you can change the outcome. If you just stop playing the damn program for a little bit, instead of 95% of the day, you just stop playing the program. I say, well, what happens if you stop playing the program? I say, well, first of all, you have to stay conscious, because why am I playing the program? Because conscious mind's thinking, and therefore program is automatically autopilot. I say, yeah, but if I stop thinking and just stay present, called being mindful, then all of a sudden my conscious mind is in control because I'm not defaulting to the subconscious. And I go, oh, the movie The Matrix, people think it's a science fiction movie. I try to tell them it's a documentary. Why? Because the program premises is everybody's been programmed. I go, that's a fact of life. That's not a science fiction story. Every one of us is programmed. It's the only way we can get off the ground. First 7 years, theta, hypnosis, programming. That's a fact, okay? But in the movie, the exciting part was the protagonist is given a choice, take a blue pill or a red pill. The conclusion of that is if you take the blue pill when you wake up, you're back into the program and life is exactly the way it's always been. But if you take the red pill, you get out of the program. I say, well, what's the consequence of getting out of the program? Well, if you're not playing the program, then you're operating from what? Conscious mind, wishes and desires. And I say, oh, wow. So here's the point. Almost everybody in our audience at one time or another has taken that red pill with the most profound effect on their lives. For most people is when they fall in love. Mm-hmm. Now, my book, The Honeymoon Effect, says, look, your life every day is blah, 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 every day. And then you meet this one person, you fall in love, and 24 hours later, your life is heaven on earth. Absolutely. Everything is beautiful. You're in love. It's romantic. The food is better. The music's better. Even the lousy job isn't so lousy anymore. I'm in love. Science has recognized that when you're in love, you stop thinking. You just stay present. You're being mindful. And what does that mean? I say, well, if you keep your conscious mind on the wheel, you're not defaulting to the program. I say, yeah, but if conscious mind's on the wheel, where's it going to drive you? Wishes and desires. So when two people come together and they fall in love, they let go of the programs that have sabotaged them. They now play only the conscious wishes and desires, and collectively they manifest heaven on earth. And I go, wow, that's the red pill. Look how beautiful it was when you stopped playing the damn program. And then I go, yeah, but how come the honeymoon doesn't last? And I go, because inevitably you still have to start thinking. You got jobs, responsibilities, things you have to take care of. You start thinking. I go, what happens the moment you start thinking? You default to the subconscious. And I go, what about that? I say, those are programs that are mainly negative in a large sense. I go, why is it relevant? Your partner, honeymoon, heaven on earth friend has never seen these negative behaviors before because you stop playing the subconscious. But the moment you start thinking, they start showing up again. But like Bill, you didn't see what you just said. Your partner hears and goes, oh my God, who are you? Where did that behavior come from? And then you're saying, I don't know what you're talking about. And truthfully, you don't. Why? Because you didn't see that while you were thinking, the old negative program showed up that your partner had never seen before because you never relied on the program. You stayed creative. And all of a sudden I said, then what happens? Well, between you and your partner, as you both resort back to thinking, you both start to play these negative programs. And all of a sudden they sabotage that heaven on earth honeymoon thing. And the relationship could break up, or it could just lose the juiciness of it. You're still there. You like each other a lot, but it's not the same. So what's the difference? Heaven on earth is a creation that we manifest it when we are using our conscious creative minds. But we lose it when we start thinking and then default to the autopilot subconscious mind. So basically says what? Just as quantum physics said, consciousness is creating a reality. If we're using consciousness from the creative conscious mind, then we manifest our wishes and our desires. But if we default to the subconscious, then we manifest the limitations that we were programmed with, and life is a struggle. We were designed to live heaven on earth. It's our programming that has removed that power from us. And that if we change the program, then we can change the character of our lives. And if you understand where your negative programs are, you can reprogram into positive versions of that behavior. And as a result, once you've reprogrammed the subconscious, I love this part, because there's no more effort on your part to change your life because 95% of your life is coming from the subconscious. So if you finally put in a program of something that's so very positive, it will show up automatically without you even working on it once you put the program in. So we're coming down to a story that says, then how come my life is the way it is and it's not what I want? And I go, because you're not living the life you want. That's conscious mind. You are living the program, and that program is where limitation comes from. Why do we need to shake up the system? That's the first important question. Why should we do that? Why don't we just leave it just the way it is? And I can tell you very simply from a biological point of view, the simple fact is this: human behavior has undermined the web of life to the extent that humans have precipitated what is called the sixth mass extinction of life on this planet, which includes us. And it's radical, and it's coming, and it's fast, and it's not 1,000 years from now, it's within the century. Upheaval you're observing in the world today is part of that upheaval. That why are we going through all the trauma? Why is there economic, racial, religious issues, health issues, climate change issues? All of this is coming at once. I go, it's not a coincidence.
Yep.
It's all a fact that we must change the way we live on this planet very rapidly, because the way we have been living on this planet has precipitated this extinction process. And since we're the ones that have precipitated, then of course we're the ones that have any option to try and change it. And to change it means we have to change the way we're living, because human behavior is causing this problem. And so if you want to move into a sustainable world, you cannot build it on the existing system, like the government that we have, for example. In other words, the government is the bigger problem of the whole thing. So now when you look at it and the whole thing is like crazy, falling apart and collapsing, I go, well, there's two ways to look at this immediate problem. I could look at as Bruce Lipton, citizen of California, and go, holy crap, what the hell is going on here? This is crazy. And I could then look at as Bruce Lipton, environmental evolutionist biologist, and go, this is exactly what is required at this moment, because you cannot build a sustainable world on the existing structure, because the existing structure is what's causing the problem. So when you see the world falling down, well, a lot of people are scared. It's like, oh my God, the thing's falling apart. And I'm the science guy that's going, thank goodness it's falling apart, because that's the only way to build a new system that can help us thrive into the future. And so while most people are stressed out over what's going on, there's another way to look at it. And it says, if this didn't go on, extinction is looming faster than you could ever imagine. And so this is our opportunity, this wake-up call that says, yeah, it's falling apart. The reason why? It gives us an opportunity to build something that is more in harmony with the planet and with nature than the way we've been living. So I give people a story, a very simple story about a butterfly. The monarch butterfly lays its eggs on a plant called the milkweed plant. And we had one. I took pictures of it when I saw the monarch starting to lay eggs on it. And when I took a picture of it, the whole plant was flush. It was green. It's got leaves. It was healthy and everything. Within a few days after the caterpillars hatched, they ate every leaf off of the plant. I took the second picture. There were just stems. There were no leaves left on the plant. So the caterpillar is a voracious organism, eats up its environment. But here comes the cool part. I said, so what happens when there are no more leaves now? It goes into a cocoon. I say, what's going on in the cocoon? I say, metamorphosis. I said, what do you mean? I say, the caterpillar comes in, and when the cocoon opens up, this butterfly comes out. And I go, interesting. The caterpillar is the most voracious of organisms, destroys its environment. But once it goes into cocoon and comes out as a butterfly, that's the lightest touch organism. Butterfly hardly even touches the planet at all. Mm-hmm. And I go, okay, now here's what's going on. Civilization is experiencing a metamorphosis. That civilization has been in a caterpillar stage, so destructive of the environment that it has precipitated a mass extinction. I say, then what? I say, well, once that happens, we go into a cocoon. I say, what's going on in the cocoon? I say, metamorphosis, a transformation into another way of life. I go, so what is exactly going on in the cocoon? I go, well, a caterpillar is made out of millions of cells, and cells, as I talk about in my book, are like miniature people functionally and behaviorally. They are like miniature people. And I say, imagine now you're a cell in a caterpillar when it's growing. Oh my God, all the jobs are going, the food's coming in, we're growing and we're moving and all the systems are working and everything's really cool. All of a sudden the leaves are gone. There's no more eating going on. Now there's no more moving going on because now we put ourselves in a cocoon. I say, what's happening in a cocoon? I say, the structure of the caterpillar is falling apart. The cells are turning into like a soup of cells, and the caterpillar is breaking down and disappearing. The cells that are being released from that caterpillar community start to organize themselves into a new structure with the help of what are called imaginal cells. I love that, imaginal cells. And they have a vision of a future that is the butterfly. And so the cells of the old caterpillars that's breaking down now start to contribute to the cells of the new one being built up. And then out of that new one comes this butterfly. Well, civilization is in the voracious caterpillar stage. We have now pushed this system that we cannot survive anymore because we have destroyed the environment. We have to go into the cocoon. I say, well, what's happening? I say, it's exactly what you see. The structure is breaking down. I go, wow, that's scary. Well, if you hold your life and make it dependent on the structure, of course it's scary. It's disappearing. But if you can actually change your point of view and your consciousness and start to focus on the one that's being built up, then all of a sudden you say, oh my God, something new and better is coming our way. This new vision is going to manifest itself. So where are we at this moment, planet Earth, population, humans? Where are we? I say, we're in a cocoon, that we're watching the breakdown of a system. And we're also simultaneously experiencing the building up of a system. So I say, as a cell, you have two options. You could focus on the breaking down one, or you could focus on the building up one. If you focus on the breaking down one, it's an automatic stressor of life because the structure you have known is not going to continue working this way anymore. And if you consider your life as an integral part of that structure and the structure is disappearing, then you are stressed because your life is going to change a lot. And the more you focus on the coming down, the more stressed that you're going to get. But you also have this other option. Yes, the one is coming down, but if you're aware that that is necessary to come down because that is the problem organism, that we're building a new civilization, a butterfly version of our civilization, then we can redirect our attention to what's being built rather than holding our attention on what's coming down. And I say that's the profound difference of life. The one that's coming down, you hold on to that. By definition, that produces stress, and stress is responsible for the illnesses on this planet. If you focus on the one coming up, all of a sudden you start to see hope and vision and a brighter future, and that brings health and vitality. So, dear audience out there, there's a choice. Are you afraid because the one's coming down, or are you hopeful because the new one being built is the one that will take us into a future that we can thrive into, not just survive, but we could thrive in a future civilization, but not on the structure that exists right now, because the existing governmental structures around the world are caterpillar inversion, and we need to change that. And the only way you can change it is to have it come apart. So when you see it falling apart, you could bemoan it and go, oh my God, everything I know is falling apart. Or you can look at it and say, thank God that destructive part of our civilization is falling apart because it offers the first opportunity to create a new sustainable world. And that's where I sit. I'm sitting there looking at the one falling apart going, thank goodness it's falling apart. Unfortunately, most people are scared to death because they don't see a vision. There is a vision. We're moving into something much better.
Yeah, and I think the important thing is a sustainable world for everyone, every person, every plant, every animal. And this audience is everyone is shaking their head yes, because this is exactly what we believe in as well. And they're so familiar with accessing their subconscious and rewriting and creating new neural pathways. But one thing that I want to hear more from you is getting into that conscious mind state, mindfulness, not getting into the thinking state. What are your favorite practices on that or staying in that, after you've been reprogramming your subconscious?
Well, the first thing is we have to become aware that we are being programmed by this. And I said, well, how do you know what the programs are? I said, well, first of all, 95% of your life comes from the program. So your life is a printout of those programs. That's the first thing. Remember, I said programming occurs even before you're born through age 7. So you got programs when you were 0. You lived a whole year of 0 before you turned 1. You were being programmed the entire year. Did you have any memory of that program? The answer is no. Why? Consciousness wasn't even working, so there's no ability to reflect on it. Okay, from 1 to 2, another whole year of programming. Are you familiar with it? What programming you got when you were 1? No. Consciousness wasn't there, so again, I'm not. Basically, around age 3, you start to have some recollection of, oh, yeah, I remember that incident or something. So you have a little bit more memory. But the first 2 or more years of your life, you've been programmed and you have no memory of the program because consciousness wasn't there. And yet we really have to understand why, because it's the program that controls your life 95% of the day. And I go, oh, what you learned is being manifest at this moment. You are playing your program 95% of the day. So here's the simple point. What are your programs? Simple. Look at your life right now. And the things that you like that come into your life, they come in because you have a program to acknowledge them. But, and here's the big one, the things that you wish for and desire, but you have to work hard and struggle and sweat over and put a lot of effort into it and all this energy. I say, why are you working so hard to get to this destination? And the answer inevitably is, whatever program I was downloaded with, that program does not support that destination. In my particular case, I had good programs about education, but I had real crap programs I downloaded about relationships by observing my mother and father and their relationship, which I downloaded that behavior, which wasn't that good. And for 40 years of my life, I struggled with relationships. Why? Because unconsciously, like Bill, I was sabotaging my relationships unconsciously using the programs of relationship that I downloaded from my parents. And at some point, it's like, oh my God, no wonder I can't have a relationship. My teachers, my programmers, their relationship was so bad that all I did was download their behavior. And then 95% of the day, I play that behavior and sabotage any hope of finding the relationship that my conscious wishes and desires was looking for. So basically, again, what are your programs? Look at your life. The things that you like that come into your life, they come in there because you have a program to acknowledge that. And the things that you wish for and desire and aspire to, but you have trouble finding it, getting to it, you're working hard, you're sweating, you're making so much effort to get there. Stop for a second and ask, why am I struggling? And the answer is, whatever program you got about that conclusion is not supporting that conclusion. And therefore, your conscious mind working 5% of the day is trying to override the program in the subconscious that is operating 95% of the day. And when you see 5% trying to control 95%, what you really recognize is that's the source of struggle. What is it you want that you're not getting? And the point is, if you have a desire and you're not getting it, then there's a monkey wrench in the way. And precisely that monkey wrench is subconscious programming.
And how do we support that 5% more, like in our conscious daily lives? Because I understand the hypnosis piece is, absolutely, and overriding that subconscious and being able to witness based on what's in our life right now, knowing what that subconscious is looking like, but supporting that 5% to become more and less of a struggle after the hypnosis phase.
Okay, so basically I said, well, one of the ways of doing that is stop thinking. There are many ways to stop thinking. I use the honeymoon effect because that so profoundly impacts people's lives. But people don't recognize it. The love that keeps your consciousness in the present moment does not necessarily have to be with a person. You could love a pet. And as long as you keep your conscious mind playing and, with the pet and enjoying the pet, and you're keeping your conscious mind present with your pet, you're not playing programs. Oh, wait, you could be a chef. You could be making the most fabulous meal in the world. I say, well, guess what? When you're making that fabulous meal, where's your consciousness? It's focused on making the meal. So you're not playing the program again. Or an artist or a gardener or whatever it is that takes your interest and keeps it in the present moment is by definition a mechanism that doesn't allow the program to take over because you're living in the present moment with consciousness. Falling in love is one of those big ones, okay? And I say, well, great, you fell in love and you experienced heaven on earth because that was the first time perhaps many of you stopped playing the program. And all of a sudden realize, geez, how wonderful life is when I'm not playing the program. Of course, you didn't know you even were playing a program. That's the invisible part, and that's where everybody gets screwed up. But the point about it is what? What can I do? Well, the idea is you can stay mindful. It's a challenging thing in this world. We stayed mindful when we first fell in love because if you've been looking for this person your whole life and they show up, obviously this is not the time to think. This is time to be present. Enjoy what just happened here. That's why the honeymoon begins, because we stop thinking and we're enjoying the present moment. So we could stay mindful, but I say, that's really difficult because the world in which we live requires so much thinking, planning. What am I doing now? Where am I going to get this? How am I going to do this? Where, what's the responsibility? Everything you're asking questions of, it's a thought. And therefore, every time you're asking a question, a thought means you are now not paying attention, but you're resolving a thought, which then by definition allows the subconscious to then be controlling the system because conscious is busy. So being mindful is a way, but it's very difficult to maintain. Well, then you only have one other choice. And the choice is to rewrite the limiting programs so that if I put in a positive program and I start thinking, instead of a negative subconscious behavior manifesting, I can manifest a very positive subconscious behavior. That's a choice. How do I know what I need to program? Well, we just stepped back and said, remember, we just talked about a very simple fact is, what is it you want that you're struggling to get? The point of struggle means it's not coming to you so easily. Why is it not coming to you? And inevitably, the answer is because your subconscious program doesn't support that. So now I say, oh my God, listen, I'm trying to make a relationship. It's not working. Then the first thing is this: I have lousy relationship programming, which I did. My relationship was this. I was looking for a relationship because I wanted the peace and harmony that love would provide in a relationship. And the consequence of this was that I was seeking that harmony, that peace, and that love. And I was seeking it. Why? Because it wasn't in my life. And if I found somebody else, they could help me have that. I could form a relationship and I could have all these wonderful things. But then all of a sudden, what you didn't recognize, which I didn't recognize, is that that's a form of codependency. Meaning, I want to be happy, but I think I'll pick that person over there. He or she will make me happy. So now I'm in a relationship, but guess what? I'm dependent upon them to feed me that happiness. If they don't feed me the happiness, then this relationship is going to, go upside down all over the place. So I say, but what does that mean when I am missing an ability that I could handle, but I depend on somebody else to provide it? That's called codependency. I get into a relationship because I need what you're going to offer me. And this was what I was looking for, a relationship, but that doesn't work. It only came to my conscious awareness when I was living in the Caribbean. Talk about pickup lines. Here I am, I've got a villa on a beach, a private beach in the Caribbean. I got a cook and a gardener and a swimming pool and all this stuff, but I have no partner. And I'm thinking, I need somebody. That was the key word, need. And I'm down at the yacht club and I meet this woman who comes off a yacht and she's got freedom. She could do what she wants, go back on the yacht, go on another yacht or something. And I was chatting her up and I thought, I'm going to use my line. I got the perfect line. I was like, hey, well, if you're not doing anything, you want to come and live in my villa? And I offered that line and she looked at me straight in the eyes and she said, no, I can't be with you. You're too needy. And it was like a slap in my face at that instant. It's like, whoa. But I wasn't mad. It was a wake up. Right. I'm too needy. I'm looking for someone to fill a need, not a person that I want to be with. Whoever that is that fills a need, put them in a slot. And she said she didn't want that job. She didn't want to be codependent and needy. So I remember walking away from that lunch and on the way home thinking to myself, you're too needy. And I go, look, you've got this most fabulous villa. You're living in the Caribbean. You got a job where you work 2 days a week. You're making more money than you made in the United States. You got everything and you're not happy, Lipton? That's what I was thinking to myself. How can I not be happy with all this? And it was a point that I said, I got to learn to be happy with this because otherwise I'm going to have to look for somebody to fill in that happy. I walked away from that lunch and my life changed. I said, stop looking for somebody. You just stop looking, Lipton, right now. And until you can learn to be happy with all the wonderful things that you've got, I don't want you looking for a relationship because that's a codependent source that you're looking for right now. So what did I do? I changed my belief system about myself. I started to recognize how enjoyable. Look, I live in this most beautiful place. Oh my God, I can buy whatever the hell I want. I've got a pool. I've got a beach. I got everything. You can't be happy with that. You're in a lot of trouble. So I became happy with it. What was the point? I stopped looking. And guess what? The moment I stopped looking, that's when I started to meet all the wonderful people who I wanted to be with because they weren't looking for me. I wasn't looking for them. We were independent elements that began to enjoy each other, not out of a codependent requirement, but as independent people coming together and sharing their independence. That's when the whole relationship game changed for me. And the reality was what? What was I seeking? What I didn't have. And I say, why didn't I have it? Because my program wouldn't allow it. So if I want to change my life, I didn't ask the woman at the table, I don't care what you think, come with me, you'll like this. It's like, no, that's not going to work. I'm the one that had to change so that I was something that somebody wanted versus, oh, he's a needy guy. I had to get out of that. And I say, that's all of us. Mm-hmm. I'm just like everybody else in this regard. And when we become needy, I say, why am I needy? Because I'm missing something. And I say, am I missing it because the universe doesn't want to give it to me? I say, no, I'm missing it because my program doesn't support that. And if I'm waiting for the universe to fill in that need, it's not going to necessarily work. And more importantly, if it does fill in the need, then all of a sudden, that's where power leverages occur in relationships. You bring somebody in because they're going to offer what you need, but now they decide to hold it back. And now you're bargaining with your partner and all that is good. That's not a relationship. I had to learn that. And I learned it so well that I wrote a book called The Honeymoon Effect, because now I understood the nature of what is it that created the honeymoon and what was the limitation. And the fact was, it was not the environment or nature against me. It was myself shooting myself in the foot all day long, coming home with a bloody foot and questioning who the hell shot me in the foot. And right in my hand is the smoking gun. I shot me in the foot. And all of a sudden I said, if you don't want to be shot in the foot, then you have to change you, not wait for the world out there to change you. You have to change yourself. And that is the most important lesson, that whatever we struggle with, we're struggling not because the universe won't give it to you. We're struggling because our program of limitation prevents us from experiencing those things. And therefore, I need to change the program. And once the program is changed, then guess what? I could put in heaven on earth programs, which I did. And now I live every day, heaven on earth. My consciousness is creating my reality, and I've changed my consciousness to heaven on earth reality. And for 20 some years now, I've lived heaven on earth every day, a honeymoon every day, 20 some years.
Amen. I really believe in this. And I think, it's so powerful. And truly everything you spoke about is in alignment with everything we believe here. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to end this podcast. I feel like there has to be a 2, because there's so many other questions I still want to ask in regards to genes and
Well, we could do it again. I would love to do it again, Lacy. Let's give it a shot.
Yay! 100%. We're so excited. But in closing, obviously you have your books, which I'll let you announce. And then do you have any upcoming events, anything like that for them to work with you?
I do have this most wonderful website, brucelipton.com. I say, why is it wonderful? I said, because everything we're talking about, there are videos, there are audio tracks, there are written articles, everything that you can download on there. And so that's a great resource. Of course, the books are, concentrated resource. The biology of belief is how our consciousness is controlling our life, how we've been programmed in the subconscious during our development, and how we can change those programs. Then there's the book called Spontaneous Evolution, to me, which is so critical because it says, you know what's going on out here in this world today? My book written 12 years ago said exactly what was going on, because it's exactly what's happening. Biology of belief is how my personal consciousness is creating my personal life experience. As I wrote that, I started to say, but what happens if a large number of people share the same consciousness? I go, oh my God, that's how culture is created. And that when consciousness changes, cultures change. And where are we now? Inevitably, I knew we're facing a mass extinction, because that's not new. That was already a scientific fact 15 years ago. And I wrote that in the book, that we're facing this evolution, and the evolution requires a breakdown of the structure, but it also gives us a future of where we would go to be healthy and whole and live that heaven on earth. That's part of the Spontaneous Evolution book. So it really is a beautiful book. I love it because it really explained everything right up to this moment, but also explains how we're going to have the possibility of evolving into a better world after this. And the last book was, oh my goodness, how come relationships are so troubling when we require them? Because that's part of human nature to do this. We are designed to have relationships. How come if we're designed to have them, there's so much struggle and 50% of relationships end up in divorce? What the hell is going on? And the answer is, it relates back to the programming again. And there's a programming that supports heaven on earth relationships, the honeymoon, which I said doesn't have to be a short period in one's life. A honeymoon could be your entire life. And I say, wow, that's heaven on earth. I go, yes. And it's fun for me because how many people think, oh, if you do really well on earth, you die, you're going to get to go to heaven. I say, well, what's heaven? I say, well, everybody has their own opinion of heaven. So heaven is your wish and desire thing. And then I realized, oh my God, you don't have to die to get to heaven. You just have to eliminate the programs that prevent you from experiencing it. So the fact is, I think we were born into heaven. This is where we came to create. But if you use other people's programs that don't allow you to create your wishes and desires, then what you create is not going to be what you want. And the whole story all comes back to biology, belief, and the whole thing all over again. And does it work? And the answer is, well, you well know, and everybody out there really knows, there are times where they did manifest the most wonderful life experiences. And if they go back, they'll recognize at that point that they stayed conscious. They didn't think a lot. They were now putting their hands on the wheel and driving toward those wishes and desires.
I love that. Oh, so good. So much amazing information in this one episode. We'll definitely be doing a number 2. Have a beautiful rest of your day, Bruce. I'm so grateful for your time, and I cannot wait to continue the conversation.
Lacy, I look forward to it.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, we did. And in case you're not totally ready to join the pathway yet, I wanted to share a few of our free offerings that I'll often suggest to people as a little bit of a blueprint to get them started on their manifestation journey. The first place I like to direct people completely for free is the motivation. You can see it linked below or on our homepage as our testimony library. And it's categorized by different subjects, whether you're calling in career, money, love, wellness, and much more. When you're reading about a member's experience of what they manifested, you're actually seeing to believe and showing your subconscious that that very thing is possible for you. The second place I like to direct people is to the free clarity exercise, which is also linked below. In it, you get to try our own unique hypnosis process, learn about the science, and some journaling prompts. And the best part about this, you'll get a tiny taste of what it's like to go into your hypnotic state, bring your subconscious forward, and create new neural pathways while receiving clarity. And the third thing, if you haven't listened to it on this podcast yet, please go back to the episode titled Manifestation 101, where you'll learn the basics of neural manifestation to truly understand this process. So go ahead and check out those free resources, the motivation, the free clarity exercise, and the episode Manifestation 101, all linked below. And in an effort to make sure to have representation in this process series, go ahead and submit any process testimonials you have, especially to our LGBTQ+ community, our BIPOC, as well as the Ys, which is anyone in the community who is 45 and over. All right, we'll be back next week.